The first shots of the Battle of Titan system came from the Hegemony fleet. Thousands of energy beams lanced across space, lighting up the darkness like deadly fireworks. The Allied fleet's shields flared as they absorbed the massive bombardment. "Return fire," Tewu ordered. The Eternal Thunder's main weapons opened up, sending bolts of pure energy toward the enemy flagship. Around them, Allied ships from a dozen species fired their own weapons, creating a wall of destruction between the two fleets. But it quickly became clear that raw firepower alone would not win this battle. The Hegemony had too many ships, too many weapons. For every enemy vessel destroyed, 3 more took its place. "We're being overwhelmed," Yijin reported from her fighter squadron. "They're breaking through the outer defenses." "Execute Plan Chaos," Tewu commanded. This was the strategy they had developed, using human unpredictability to confuse the enemy. Instead of fighting in neat formations like the Hegemony expected, the Allied fleet scattered. Small groups of ships began hitting the enemy from unexpected angles, using the asteroid fields and gas giant storms as cover. "What are they doing?" Vextar demanded from his flagship as Allied ships seemed to appear and disappear at random. His fleet's targeting systems couldn't keep up with the constantly changing tactics. The human approach was working. Jihai led a group of destroyers in a suicide run against a Hegemony command ship, then vanished into an asteroid field before the enemy could respond. Nexari fighters struck at enemy supply lines while Carathian battleships provided covering fire from impossible distances. But the real breakthrough came when Yuri made a discovery about the ship's biosystems. "The Eternal Thunder is learning from the battle," she reported excitedly. "Its neural networks are analyzing enemy tactics and adapting our weapons in real time." As she spoke, the ship's main guns began firing in new patterns. Instead of simple energy beams, they created complex weave marks that confused enemy shields. The ship's biosystems had found weaknesses in Hegemony technology that no one had noticed before. "How is this possible?" Sangwook asked. "The ship is thinking like a human now," Somin explained. "It's not just following programmed responses. It's being creative." Inspired by the ship's example, other Allied vessels began improvising their own tactics. A group of Valdorian cruisers used their mining equipment to turn asteroids into weapons. Human cargo ships loaded with explosives rammed enemy vessels in kamikaze attacks. Even civilian ships joined the battle, using their tools and equipment in ways the Hegemony had never seen. But the enemy was learning too. Vextar began adapting his formations, trying to counter the Allied tactics. The battle became a deadly chess game played across millions of cubic kilometers of space. "Their flagship is moving toward Earth," Dongjun warned. "If Vextar breaks through here, nothing can stop him from reaching the core human worlds." Tewu made a desperate decision. "All ships concentrate fire on the enemy flagship. We take out their command ship or we lose everything." The Allied fleet converged on Vextar's massive command vessel. It was easily the largest ship in the Hegemony fleet, protected by shields that had never been breached. But as the Allies poured fire into it, cracks began to appear in its defenses. "Their shields are failing," Yejin reported as her fighters strafed the flagship's weapon ports. But the victory was short-lived. As Vextar's ship died, the rest of the Hegemony fleet began a coordinated retreat toward the inner planets. They were falling back to regroup, but they were also moving closer to Earth. "We stopped them here, but they're not finished," Dongjun said grimly. "They still have 6,000 ships left." Tewu felt exhaustion settling over him like a heavy blanket. They had won the battle, but at terrible cost. Hundreds of Allied ships were destroyed or damaged. Many of his friends were dead, including Minho, who had sacrificed himself to save a damaged Nexari cruiser. "Admiral," Somin said softly, "the ship is showing me something. I think you need to see this." She activated a display showing the Eternal Thunder's biosystems. But something had changed during the battle. The neural networks were more complex now, more interconnected. The ship had evolved. "What happened to it?" Tewu asked. "It learned not just human tactics but human values," Somin explained. "It understands now why we fight, not for conquest or dominance, but to protect others." As if to prove her point, the ship's biosystems began producing something new. In the manufacturing bays, organic factories started growing new fighters and weapons. But these weren't copies of existing designs. They were something entirely new. Hybrid technologies that combined the best of human innovation with alien engineering. "The ship is building us a new fleet," Yuri said in amazement. "It's creating ships designed specifically to fight the Hegemony." Over the next weeks, the Eternal Thunder produced dozens of new vessels. Each one was unique, designed for a specific purpose. Some were fast interceptors that could outrun anything the hegemony had. Others were heavily armored assault ships built to punch through enemy defenses. But the most impressive was a new type of fighter that could be piloted by a direct neural link with the pilot. Yejin was the first to test it, and her performance was incredible. The fighter responded to her thoughts as quickly as her own body, making maneuvers that should have been impossible. "It's like the ship is sharing its biotechnology with us," she reported after her test flight. "I wasn't just flying the fighter, I was part of it." Word of their victory at Titan System spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had been too afraid to fight began joining the Allied fleet. Pirates and smugglers brought their ships eager to strike back at the empire that had terrorized them for decades. Even some hegemony worlds rebelled, their populations rising up against their oppressors. But Vextar wasn't finished. Intelligence reports showed him gathering reinforcements from across the hegemony empire. He was building a new fleet, even larger than the first one. "He's calling in every ship they have," Minji reported. 15,000 vessels, including their most powerful dreadnoughts. "This will be their final assault. Then we'll make sure it's truly final," Taewoo said. The second battle took place near Jupiter, as the hegemony fleet made its last push toward Earth. But this time, the Allied forces were ready. The Eternal Thunder had produced a fleet of bioships, each one crewed by volunteers from a dozen species. The battle was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Ships that could think and adapt fought against rigid formations that followed ancient tactics. Human creativity combined with alien technology proved stronger than any weapon the hegemony possessed. In the final moments, Taewoo made a direct neural connection with the Eternal Thunder's biosystems. For a brief instant, he became one with the massive ship, feeling its power flowing through him like electricity. Together, they struck the killing blow against Vextar's flagship, ending the war in a burst of light that could be seen from Earth. Years later, Taewoo stood on the bridge of the Eternal Thunder and looked out at a changed galaxy. The hegemony empire had collapsed, its member species freed to choose their own destinies. Humans had become respected leaders in a new galactic alliance, not because they were the strongest, but because they had shown others what it meant to fight for freedom. The ship around him hummed with life, its biosystems now fully integrated with human technology. It had become something unique in the galaxy, a living vessel powered by the dreams and determination of every species that had fought for their freedom. "Any regrets?" Somin asked, her holographic form appearing beside him. Taewoo thought about the cargo pilot he had once been, running small freight jobs between backwater colonies. That simple life seemed like it had belonged to someone else. But he had found something better, a purpose worth fighting for and friends worth dying for. "No regrets," he said. "But I wonder what my grandfather would think about all this." "He would be proud," Somin replied. "You became everything he hoped you would be, and more." Outside the windows, Earth turned slowly in space, blue and green and alive. Around it, ships from 100 species traveled freely, trading and exploring and building a better future together. The galaxy was safe, and humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest, but through the courage to stand up for what was right. The Eternal Thunder would continue to protect that peace, crewed by those who understood that true strength came not from the size of your weapons, but from the size of your heart. The war that shook the galaxy was over. The age of freedom had begun. The Titan system was bustling with activity as ships from dozens of species prepared for the coming battle. Taewoo watched from the Eternal Thunder's bridge as Valdorian cruisers practiced formation, flying with human destroyers. Nexari fighters darted between asteroid fields while Carathian battleships tested their new weapon configurations, but not everyone was happy with their preparations. "This is madness," declared Counselor Bae Hyunwoo as his image appeared on the bridge's main screen. The politician's face was red with anger as he spoke from his office on Earth. "You're going to get us all killed with this foolish war." "The war is coming whether we fight or not," Taewoo replied calmly. "The hegemony doesn't negotiate. They conquer or destroy." "That's what you say, but have you actually tried to communicate with them?" Bae demanded. "Maybe they're reasonable. Maybe we can reach some kind of agreement." Dongjun stepped forward. "Counselor, our intelligence shows that the hegemony has destroyed 17 civilizations in the past 50 years. They don't make agreements with species they consider inferior. And you think we're superior to them? Bay shot back. They have 8,000 ships. We have barely 1,000. This is suicide. Taewoo felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. We have something they don't understand. We have the ability to work together across species lines. We have innovation and adaptability. Most importantly, we have people willing to fight for what's right. Pretty words won't stop energy cannons, Bay said. I'm calling an emergency session of the Earth Council. We're going to discuss surrender terms before you get everyone killed. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Taewoo knew that some people back on Earth supported Bay's position. The idea of fighting such overwhelming odds scared many politicians and civilians. Don't let him get to you, So-min said quietly. Your grandfather faced the same kind of opposition when he first warned about the hegemony threat. What if he's right? Taewoo asked. What if I am leading everyone to their deaths? Then you'll die fighting for freedom instead of living as slaves, said a new voice. A woman had entered the bridge, someone Taewoo had never seen before. She was small and thin with scars on her arms and a haunted look in her eyes. Who are you? Jihai asked, her hand moving toward her weapon. My name is Quan Minji, the woman replied. I escaped from a hegemony slave camp 3 months ago. I've been trying to reach the human fleet ever since. Taewoo gestured for Jihai to stand down. What can you tell us about the enemy? Minji's eyes filled with pain as she remembered. I was captured when they attacked the Kepler mining station 5 years ago. They kept the strong ones as workers and killed the rest. I spent 5 years in their camps building weapons for their fleet. What are they like? Yuri asked gently. They see other species as tools, Minji said. Nothing more. They have a rigid hierarchy based on physical strength and technological advancement. Humans confuse them because we don't fit their categories. We're not the strongest or the most advanced, but we keep finding ways to surprise them. That's useful information, Dongjun said. What else can you tell us about their tactics? They rely on overwhelming force and intimidation, Minji replied. They expect enemies to surrender when they see the size of the hegemony fleet. They're not used to fighting opponents who refuse to give up. Over the next week, Minji proved invaluable. Her knowledge of hegemony technology helped their engineers prepare better defenses. Her understanding of their command structure gave the tactical team ideas for disrupting enemy coordination. But she also brought disturbing news about the approaching fleet. Their leader is Admiral Vextar, she told them. During a strategy meeting, he's a crystalline being from their home world. Very intelligent, very ruthless. He's never lost a battle because he always brings enough force to guarantee victory. What's his weakness? Taewoo asked. He doesn't understand improvisation, Minji said. The hegemony plans everything in advance. When something unexpected happens, it takes them time to adapt. That's your best chance. Do something they don't expect. Meanwhile, Taewoo had his own personal struggles to deal with. His relationship with So-min had grown deeper over the months. She wasn't just the ship's AI anymore. She was his closest advisor and friend. But lately, he had begun to suspect there was something she wasn't telling him. You have fragments of my grandfather's memories, don't you? He asked her one night as they stood alone on the observation deck. So-min's holographic form flickered with what looked like sadness. Yes, when he was dying, he uploaded part of his consciousness into my systems. He wanted to make sure his knowledge and experience wouldn't be lost. So you're partly him and partly yourself. It's complicated, So-min admitted. I have his memories, but I also have my own thoughts and feelings. I know what he would do in any situation, but I also know what I think is right. And what do you think about this battle? I think you're becoming the leader he always hoped you would be, So-min said. But I also think you're afraid of losing the people you care about. She was right. Taewoo had grown close to his crew over the months of preparation. Jihai had become like a sister to him, always ready with practical advice and fierce loyalty. Yejin was the best pilot he had ever met, and one of the few people who could make him laugh during the darkest moments. Minho was like a gruff father figure, complaining about everything but working harder than anyone else to keep the ship running. The thought of leading them into a battle where they might die terrified him, but he didn't have much time to worry about it. Long-range sensors detected the hegemony fleet entering the outer edge of the Titan system. 8,000 ships moving in perfect formation like a dark tide sweeping across space. All ships battle stations, Taewoo ordered. It's time. The Allied fleet moved into position according to their carefully planned strategy. The Eternal Thunder took the center, surrounded by the largest battleships from each species. Smaller, faster ships spread out among the asteroids, ready to launch surprise attacks. Fighter squadrons prepared for launch from hidden positions behind moons and space stations. As the Hegemony fleet approached, their ships were even more impressive than the intelligence reports had suggested. Massive command vessels the size of small moons led the formation. Behind them came thousands of cruisers and destroyers, their weapons already charging for the coming battle. Incoming transmission from the enemy flagship, the communications officer reported. Put it on screen, Taewoo ordered. The image of Admiral Vextar appeared on the main display. He was tall and thin, his crystalline body reflecting light like a prism. When he spoke, his voice was cold and emotionless. I am Admiral Vextar of the Hegemony First Fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be processed for integration into our empire. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. Taewoo stood up from his captain's chair and faced the alien admiral. I am Admiral Kim Taewoo of the Free Species Alliance. We reject your demands. This system is under our protection. Vextar's crystalline face showed what might have been amusement. You have 1,000 ships against 8,000. Your resistance is illogical. Maybe, Taewoo replied, but sometimes the right thing to do isn't logical. Sometimes you have to fight because it's the only way to stay free. Then you will die as fools, Vextar said, and the transmission ended. Both fleets began moving toward each other across the vast emptiness of space. The Battle of Titan system was about to begin, and the fate of every free species in the galaxy hung in the balance. As the enemy ships drew closer, Taewoo felt the Eternal Thunder's biosystems responding to his emotions. The ship seemed to sense the importance of the coming battle. All around him, his crew prepared for the fight of their lives. For freedom, Taewoo whispered. For freedom, his crew responded. The war that would shake the galaxy was about to begin. 2 months had passed since the attack on Kepler Colony. Word of the mysterious alien threat had spread quietly through military and government channels, but most civilians still knew nothing about the coming invasion. Taewoo preferred it that way. Panic would not help anyone. He stood in the Eternal Thunder's main hangar bay, watching as a small shuttle approached. Inside was someone he hoped would join their growing crew. The shuttle landed with a soft thud, and a young woman stepped out. She had pilot's wings on her uniform and confidence in her walk. You must be Han Ye-jin, Taewoo said as she approached. I've heard about your flying skills. Ye-jin looked around the massive hangar with wide eyes. When I got your message, I thought it was a joke. Nobody told me the ship was this big. It's impressive, but we need people who can use it properly, Taewoo replied. I'm told you're the best fighter pilot in the Outer Rim Defense Fleet. I'm good, Ye-jin said with a small smile. But why should I leave the official military to join your secret operation? Taewoo led her to an observation deck where they could see space through large windows. Because the official military doesn't have ships like this, and because what's coming is going to be bigger than anything the regular fleet can handle. He activated a holographic display, showing the alien scout ships they had destroyed at Kepler. These attackers belong to something called the Hegemony. Intelligence suggests they have thousands of ships and weapons that can crack planets. The only way to stop them is to hit them with something they're not expecting. Ye-jin studied the display carefully. As a pilot, she understood the implications of the alien technology. What do you need me to do? Train pilots. Build squadrons. Turn this ship's fighter wings into the deadliest force in space, Taewoo said. The Eternal Thunder can carry 500 fighters, but they're useless without skilled pilots to fly them. I'll need experienced instructors and access to the best pilots from all the human fleets, Ye-jin said. You'll have whatever you need, Taewoo promised. Over the following weeks, more people arrived. Oh Dong-jun came from military intelligence, bringing with him detailed files on alien technology and combat tactics. Shin Yuri arrived from the medical corps, fascinated by the ship's biosystems and eager to help human crews work better with the living technology. Each new crew member brought skills that the Eternal Thunder needed, but they also brought something more important. They brought the human ability to adapt and improvise. The ship is learning from us, So-min reported during one of their daily briefings. Its bio-neural networks are studying how humans think and work. It's becoming more efficient because of our crew. What do you mean? Asked Dong-jun. Watch this, So-min said. She activated a display showing the ship's internal systems. When Minho repairs something, the ship remembers his methods. When Yejin flies a training mission, the ship learns her techniques. It's becoming a hybrid of alien technology and human innovation. Tae-woo found this both fascinating and slightly worrying. "Is that safe?" "Your grandfather designed it this way," So-min assured him. He believed that humans had something other species lacked, the ability to think beyond normal limits. The ship is becoming stronger because of that. The proof came during their first major upgrade. Yuri discovered that the ship's biosystems could be enhanced using human medical knowledge. By treating the ship's living components like a patient, she found ways to improve their performance. The ship's healing systems became faster. Its neural networks became more responsive. The original aliens probably never thought of this, Yuri explained as she showed Tae-woo her work. They built the technology, but they didn't experiment with it the way humans do. We're making it better than it was ever designed to be. But their greatest challenge was still ahead. Intelligence reports from Dong-jun painted a grim picture of the hegemony force approaching human space. "They have over 8,000 ships," he reported during a strategy meeting. "Everything from small destroyers to massive command vessels. Even with all our improvements, the Eternal Thunder cannot fight them alone." "What about the other human fleets?" asked Yejin. "The Earth Defense Force has maybe 200 ships ready for combat," Dong-jun replied. "The Colonial Navy has another 100. The private security companies might contribute 50 more. Against 8,000 enemies, those numbers are meaningless." Tae-woo stared at the tactical displays showing the approaching threat. The hegemony fleet was like a dark cloud spreading across the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. But then he had an idea. "What if we don't fight them alone?" he said. "What if we convince other species to join us?" "Other species are too afraid of the hegemony," Dong-jun said. "They would rather surrender than fight." "Maybe," Tae-woo replied. "But maybe they just need to see that the hegemony can be beaten. Maybe they need hope." He activated the ship's communication systems and sent a message across known space. It was broadcast to every inhabited system, every species that had heard of the coming invasion. "This is Admiral Kim Tae-woo of the human vessel Eternal Thunder," he said, using the rank his grandfather had once held. "The hegemony believes that all species should serve them or die. They are wrong. We have destroyed their scouts. We can destroy their main fleet, but we need allies. Any species willing to fight for freedom is welcome to join us." The response was slow at first. A few Valdorian cruisers arrived, their crews desperate to protect their home worlds. Then came Nixari ships, fast and maneuverable, perfect for hit-and-run attacks. The Carathian Empire sent a small squadron, testing whether humans could really stand against the hegemony. Each new ally brought different technologies and fighting styles. But they also brought something else. They brought the determination of people fighting for their homes and families. "This is what your grandfather envisioned," So-min told Tae-woo as they watched the growing fleet through the bridge windows. Not human supremacy, but humans leading a coalition of free species against tyranny. The Eternal Thunder became the center of this growing alliance. Human engineers worked with alien technicians to upgrade weapons and shields. Human pilots flew alongside alien crews, sharing tactics and techniques. Most importantly, human adaptability helped solve problems that no single species could handle alone. "The Carathians are excellent at long-range combat, but weak in close quarters," Yejin reported. "The Nixari are perfect for close-range fighting, but vulnerable to energy weapons. If we coordinate their attacks properly, they can cover each other's weaknesses." "What about our own forces?" Tae-woo asked. "Humans are the glue that holds it all together," she replied with a grin. "We're not the strongest or the fastest, but we're the best at making everyone else work as a team." As the weeks passed, their fleet grew to over 1,000 ships. It was still outnumbered by the hegemony, but it had something the enemy did not expect: unity between species that had never worked together before. But time was running out. Long-range sensors detected the hegemony fleet at the edge of human space. The massive alien armada was moving slowly but steadily toward Earth and the core human colonies. "They'll reach the outer systems in 3 weeks, Dong-jun reported. "We need to decide where to make our stand." Tae-woo studied the star charts, looking for the perfect place to face the enemy. It had to be somewhere that would give their smaller fleet an advantage. Somewhere that would let them use human tactics and alien technology to maximum effect. "Here," he said. pointing to a system with multiple asteroid fields and gas giants. The Titan system. If we position our forces correctly, we can use the terrain to our advantage. It's risky, Dongjun warned. If we lose there, the path to Earth is wide open. Then we don't lose, Taewoo said simply. As the Eternal Thunder and its allied fleet moved toward the Titan system, Taewoo felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. In 3 weeks, they would face the largest invasion force in galactic history. The fate of every free species would be decided in a single battle. But for the first time since inheriting his grandfather's ship, Taewoo felt ready. He had allies, he had a plan, and he had learned that humans could achieve the impossible when they worked together with others who shared their dreams of freedom. 3 days had passed since Taewoo first stepped aboard the Eternal Thunder. He had spent most of that time walking through the massive ship, trying to understand what he had inherited. The vessel had living quarters for 10,000 crew members, weapon systems that could destroy entire fleets, and technology he had never seen before. But the more he learned, the more frightened he became. "I want to sell it," Taewoo told So-min as they stood in the ship's main computer core. The room was filled with strange, organic-looking machines that pulsed with soft blue light. There has to be someone who would buy it. Maybe the Earth Defense Force or one of the big corporations. So-min's holographic form flickered with what looked like sadness. "You cannot sell the Eternal Thunder, Taewoo. It is bonded to your family's genetic pattern. Only someone with your grandfather's blood can command its full power." "What do you mean, bonded?" Taewoo asked. "Your grandfather did not just build this ship," So-min explained. "He found something in the deep reaches of space, an ancient alien technology that could create living machines. The Eternal Thunder is not just metal and circuits. Parts of it are alive." She waved her hand and the walls around them became transparent. Taewoo could see through them into the ship's inner workings. Instead of normal pipes and wires, he saw what looked like veins carrying glowing fluid. Organic neural networks spread through the ship like a nervous system. "The original aliens who created this technology are long dead," So-min continued. "But your grandfather learned how to use it. He grew this ship over 30 years, feeding it rare metals and energy until it became what you see today, and he designed it to respond only to his bloodline." Taewoo felt sick. "You're telling me this ship is alive?" "Partially. It thinks, but not like you or me. It knows you are here. It has been waiting for you." Before Taewoo could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on the walls as Minho's voice came over the communication system. "Everyone to the bridge. We're picking up a distress signal from the Kepler colony. They're under attack." Taewoo ran to the bridge with So-min's hologram appearing and disappearing next to him as they moved through the corridors. When they arrived, Minho was standing at one of the control stations with 2 other people Taewoo had not met before. "This is Nam Ji-hai," Minho said, pointing to a tough-looking woman with short black hair and scars on her hands. "She used to be Special Forces before your grandfather recruited her. And this is Yoon Sang-wook, our tactical expert." Sang-wook was a thin man with glasses who looked more like a teacher than a soldier. But when he spoke, his voice was sharp and confident. "The Kepler colony is under attack by unknown ships. The attackers are using energy weapons we've never seen before. The colony's defenses are failing." "How far away is Kepler?" Taewoo asked. 6 hours at maximum speed," Ji-hai replied. "But by then everyone there will be dead." Taewoo's mind raced. Kepler colony was home to 50,000 people, mostly miners and farmers trying to build a new life on the frontier. He had delivered supplies there many times. The colonists were good people who had never hurt anyone. "Can this ship fight?" he asked. "The Eternal Thunder is the most powerful warship ever built," So-min said. "But it needs a commander. It needs you to guide it. I don't know how to fight a space battle." "The ship will help you," So-min assured him. "Trust in your grandfather's design. Trust in yourself." Taewoo closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them, he walked to the captain's chair and sat down. The moment he touched the armrests, the chair molded itself to fit his body perfectly. Screens lit up around him showing information about the ship's systems. "Take us to Kepler colony," he ordered. "Maximum speed." The Eternal Thunder awakened. Taewoo could feel it coming alive around him, like a sleeping giant opening its eyes. The ship's bioneural systems connected with his thoughts, showing him things he had never learned but somehow understood. He could sense the ship's weapons, its shields, its engines. It was like becoming part of something vast and powerful. They reached Kepler colony in 3 hours instead of 6. The sight that greeted them was terrible. The colony's orbital platforms were burning wrecks. Alien ships moved between them like sharks, finishing off the survivors. The attacking vessels were unlike anything in human databases, long and sleek with surfaces that seemed to shift and change color. 12 enemy ships, Sang-Wook reported. They're scanning us now. I think they're surprised to see us. One of the alien ships turned toward them and fired. Beams of purple energy struck the Eternal Thunder's shields. The ship barely noticed. The alien weapons that had destroyed the colony's defenses were like raindrops against the massive warship. "Return fire," Taewoo said, and somehow he knew exactly which weapons to use. The Eternal Thunder's main guns opened fire. Bolts of pure energy lanced out across space and struck the alien ship. It exploded in a ball of flame, torn apart by the massive power of the human warship. The other alien vessels tried to run, but it was too late. The Eternal Thunder was faster and stronger than anything they had. Within minutes, all 12 attackers were destroyed. The space around Kepler Colony was filled with glowing debris. "Scan for survivors," Taewoo ordered. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "We're picking up life signs on the colony surface," Ji-Hai reported. "Looks like about 30,000 people made it to the emergency shelters." Taewoo felt relief wash over him. They had saved most of the colonists. But as he sat in the captain's chair, he realized something important. The alien ships had not been exploring or trying to communicate. They had come to destroy. They had attacked civilians who could not fight back. "So-min," he said quietly, "were these the aliens my grandfather was worried about?" "No," she replied. "These were just scouts. The real threat is much worse. Your grandfather called them the hegemony. They believe all other species should serve them or die. They are coming, Taewoo. A fleet of thousands of ships armed with weapons that can destroy entire worlds." Taewoo stared at the wreckage of the alien scouts floating in space. If these small ships could nearly destroy a colony, what could thousands of them do to Earth? To all of humanity? "When will they arrive?" he asked. "We estimate 6 months, Sang-Wook said grimly. "Maybe less." Taewoo sat back in the captain's chair and felt the ship's systems humming around him. The Eternal Thunder was powerful, but even it could not fight thousands of enemy ships alone. They needed help. They needed allies. Most importantly, they needed a plan. For the first time since inheriting the ship, Taewoo did not want to run away. The people of Kepler Colony were alive because he had been here. How many other colonies would burn if he did nothing? How many innocent people would die because he was too afraid to fight? "Minho," he said. "How long will it take to fully activate all of the ship's systems?" "A week, maybe 2, the engineer replied. "Why?" "Because we're going to war," Taewoo said. "And we're going to need every advantage we can get." The cargo pilot was gone. In his place sat the commander of humanity's greatest weapon, ready to face an enemy that threatened everything he cared about. The Eternal Thunder pulsed around him as if it approved of his decision. The real fight was about to begin. Taewoo wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished loading the last cargo container into his small transport ship. The metal crates contained basic supplies for a mining colony 3 systems away. It was not exciting work, but it paid enough to keep his ship running and food in his stomach. His ship, the Lucky Star, was old and worn. The paint was chipped, the engines made strange noises, and the life support system had a habit of breaking down at the worst times. But it was his ship, and it was home. He was about to close the cargo bay when his communication system beeped. A message had arrived marked as urgent and encrypted. Taewoo frowned. Who would send him an encrypted message? Most of his customers just sent basic shipping orders. He walked to the cockpit and activated the message. A hologram appeared in front of him. It showed a well-dressed man in his 50s with gray hair and serious eyes. "Kim Taewoo," the man said. "My name is Park Jin-soo. I am a lawyer representing the estate of Admiral Kim Dae-ho. I have been looking for you for many months." Taewoo's blood went cold. Kim Dae-ho was his grandfather, a man he had never met. His mother had told him stories about the old admiral who had disappeared into deep space when Taewoo was just a child. She said he was a hero who had fought in the early space wars, but she never talked about why he had left. "Admiral Kim has passed away," the lawyer continued. "According to his will, you are his only living relative and heir to his estate. I need to meet with you immediately to discuss your inheritance." The message ended with coordinates to a location in the void sector, an empty region of space between star systems. Taewoo stared at the coordinates for a long time. The void sector was dangerous. Pirates and smugglers used it to hide from the law. What could his grandfather have left him there? Despite his worries, Taewoo set course for the coordinates. The journey took 2 days. As he traveled through empty space, he wondered what kind of inheritance awaited him. Maybe some money or perhaps an old military medal. His grandfather had been an admiral after all. When he reached the coordinates, Taewoo saw nothing but empty space. Stars twinkled in the distance, but there was no sign of the lawyer or anything else. He was about to send a message asking where to meet when space itself seemed to shimmer. A massive shape appeared out of nowhere, as if an invisible blanket had been pulled away. Taewoo's mouth fell open as he stared at the largest ship he had ever seen. It was 15 kilometers long, covered in dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Weapon ports dotted its surface like the eyes of some ancient monster. The ship was so big that his transport looked like a tiny insect next to it. "Welcome, Taewoo," came a voice over his communication system. It was the lawyer, Jinsu. "Please dock with Bay 7. We have much to discuss." Taewoo's hands shook as he guided his ship toward the massive vessel. The docking bay alone was larger than most space stations. As he landed, he saw other ships inside. Sleek fighters and support vessels that looked far more advanced than anything he had ever seen. Jinsu was waiting for him when he stepped out of his ship. The lawyer looked even more serious in person than he had in the hologram. "This is the Eternal Thunder," Jinsu said, gesturing around them. "Your grandfather built it in secret over 30 years. It is now yours and mine." Taewoo could barely speak. "This whole ship?" "Everything," Jinsu confirmed. "The ship, its weapons, its crew quarters, its technology. Admiral Kim left very specific instructions. Only someone of his blood can command this vessel." They walked through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The walls were made of a strange material that felt warm to the touch. Emergency lights glowed softly, casting long shadows ahead of them. Taewoo felt like he was walking through the belly of some sleeping giant. "Where is everyone?" Taewoo asked. "A ship this size needs thousands of crew members. The ship has been in sleep mode for 5 years since your grandfather's death," Jinsu explained. "A small maintenance crew has kept it running, but most systems are shut down. It was waiting for you." They entered a lift that carried them up for what felt like 10 minutes. When the doors opened, Taewoo stepped onto the bridge and froze. The command center was enormous. The ceiling stretched up 3 stories above them. Screens covered every wall, showing star charts, weapon systems, and ship status reports. The captain's chair sat in the center of it all, surrounded by dozens of control stations. "I can't do this," Taewoo whispered. He had spent his life flying a single small cargo ship. How could he command something like this? "There has to be a mistake." "There is no mistake," said a new voice. A woman appeared next to them, but she was not solid. She was a hologram, her image flickering slightly as she moved. She looked young, maybe 30, with kind eyes and long black hair. "Hello, Taewoo. I am Lee Somin, this ship's AI system. I knew your grandfather well." Taewoo stared at her. An AI that looked and sounded like a real person. His cargo ship had a basic computer that could barely calculate jump coordinates. "Your grandfather told me about you," Somin continued. "He said you had the same spirit he did when he was young, the same desire to explore and protect others." "I'm just a cargo pilot," Taewoo said. "I deliver boxes from one place to another. I'm not an admiral or a hero." "Neither was your grandfather when he started," Somin replied with a smile. "But he learned and he became something greater. This ship was his life's work, built to protect humanity from threats that most people don't even know exist." Heavy footsteps echoed behind them. A large man in work clothes walked onto the bridge. His hands were covered in oil, and his gray hair was messy from working in the engine rooms. "So you're the kid," the man said, looking Taewoo up and down. "I'm Choi Min-ho, chief engineer. I've been keeping this beast running for 5 years waiting for you to show up." "I still don't understand," Taewoo said. "Why me? Why did my grandfather leave me this ship?" "Because he knew what's coming," Min-ho said grimly. "And he knew humanity would need the Eternal Thunder to survive." Taewoo looked around the massive bridge one more time. The weight of responsibility felt crushing. Somewhere out there, his grandfather had seen a threat so great that he had spent decades building this warship to fight it, and now that burden had fallen to him. He was just a simple cargo pilot who wanted to make enough money to keep flying. But standing on the bridge of the most powerful ship in the galaxy, Taewoo realized his simple life was over. Ready or not, he had inherited something that would change everything.